We want to go ahead and bring in Cortney Casey. She's a managing partner of the Blue. My glasses are stuck.
Blue Skies Brewery,
There
right
you go.
there.
They're stuck in
I
my
got you.
hair. I'm sorry. I need glasses. Courtney, that's when you get old, is when you start needing glasses. It's the worst thing. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on today.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. For those that may not have been to your establishment, tell us about Blue Skies Brewery.
Absolutely. So we actually we seem to have the worst timing ever. My husband and I, with all the businesses that we're affiliated with, but always it somehow works out. So we actually opened in downtown Auburn Hills during quarantine as curbside service only. So that was kind of an interesting start to being open. We were hoping to open late last year, but we had some construction delays. So opened in May in downtown Auburn Hills on Auburn Road near North Squirrel. And then, when the lockdown was lifted, we were able to finally open our indoor space. And now we also have outdoor seating. So we're actually a satellite tap room for Blue Skies Brewery, our parent location, which is located in Onstead, Michigan, near Brooklyn, Michigan. And most of our beers are brewed there. We are doing some small batch stuff eventually here in Auburn Hills. But we're basically a satellite tap room featuring the beers from Blue Skies.
I will say I love the story behind your name. Do you want to go ahead and share that?
Sure, yeah. So my husband Shannon and I are the managing partners. We've been working for years with Lorenzo Lizarralde. He's the owner of the parent company, Blue Skies, and he's also the owner of Chateau Aeronautique Winery. And my husband and I own Michigan by the Bottle tasting rooms with 3 locations in Metro Detroit. And we started working with Lorenzo through his wine business because we feature Michigan wineries at our tasting rooms. And after a while, he decided that he wanted to expand into beer. And how he got the name for both of his places, Chateau Aeronautique is the French word for aeronautical. And he is a pilot for a major commercial airline, and he loves flying, obviously. And that's how he fell in love with wine, from flying all over the world. And that's also how he fell in love with beer. So when he was looking to open the brewery, he was looking for a name that would also kind of capture that whole airline aesthetic and really represent, the kind of conditions that the pilots are hoping for when they go out to fly. So that's where Blue Skies came from.
We're speaking with Cortney Casey, managing partner at Blue Skies Brewery out of Auburn Hills on the Oakland County Megacast. So your brewery, like many other businesses in the restaurant in the bars industry, was heavily impacted, of course, by the COVID-19 pandemic. How specifically did the events, at least early on in the pandemic and throughout the course of this pandemic, impact your business, and how have you been able to navigate that to continue to survive through what you've gone through this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who owns a small business right now can really relate to, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, things were changing so quickly that we would come up with one plan, especially for our wine tasting business as well, which was which was open at that point. Blue Skies was still pending opening, and we would come up with a plan, and then the next day something would change. And I mean, I think that's just what you get when you're living through an unprecedented historical event. But it's like, okay, that plan's not going to work. We're going to go to the next plan. For Blue Sky specifically, it was difficult because we were really nearing the end of construction after a really long construction process with a lot of challenges, which seems to happen every time construction is involved. So we were really looking forward to getting open right around that time when the lockdown happened. And so we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. The city of Auburn Hills has been super, super supportive and welcoming, and they have done all they can to try and make sure that we are successful. But once the lockdown happened, they were not allowed to send out building officials to, finalize our certificate of occupancy and that sort of thing. So we are basically in a holding pattern in terms of letting people inside. But then when we got to May 7th, when construction resumed, the day that construction resumed, the city of Auburn Hills was out to complete our inspections. And so we got our certificate of occupancy that day that construction resumed. So we were really thankful for their support. And so then we were able to do curbside at least. So even though we weren't able to let people inside, we could do that. And we were really overwhelmed by the support of the community from people who were, all we had at that point were growlers at first, and then we got howlers. So people had never even tried this beer, a lot of them, unless they'd been out to our parent location, and they were still coming and ordering like one, two, three curbside growlers to take home without ever having tasted the beer. So, I mean, that was really amazing. We had people, as soon as we posted on Facebook that we were open, they were calling in for curbside orders. So that was awesome. And then when we finally could open to the public, it was a challenge just trying to get the seating all spaced out properly. And, not all of our bar seating is in use and that sort of thing. We've definitely been taking all the proper precautions, but we did find really quite soon in the process that there were a lot of people that weren't comfortable sitting inside yet, which we totally understand. So the city of Auburn Hills worked with us under some of the new regulations for licensing outdoor seating to quickly put some sidewalk seating in basically on the city property. And so that really, really has helped us out. And our patio has a lot of people on it every day, all spaced out, of course. But there's a lot of people who still are nervous about coming inside, and I completely understand that. So I think the impact of outdoor seating has been really huge. Also, just making sure that we communicate to our guests that we're doing everything safely. We are obviously masked as employees. We ask the customers to be masked until they sit down. And we've been doing things like tableside karaoke where people don't get up and the mic is wiped down. For our trivia, we do Sporkle trivia. They're doing everything online in terms of submitting answers, so people don't have to get up and walk around. So we're just trying to find new ways to do things safely and trying to communicate to the public that it is a safe space and that we're doing everything we can to keep them safe, while still giving them a place to come out and find new beers and meet new friends and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the beer industry, the craft beer industry has exploded in the state of Michigan. As a new business that's opening in the middle of COVID-19, how do you market yourself to the general public to say, hey, come give us a try?
It's been a challenge. I do all the marketing for both Michigan by the Bottle tasting rooms and then also for Blue Skies Auburn Hills. And I kind of, I think when I'm marketing, I try to think about if I were marketing to myself and I was marketing to the people I know, and to the customers that I think that would enjoy our business, like what would I want to see and what would I want to hear, to make me feel comfortable and to make me feel interested in, like you said, there's so many beer places. And I think that people who are into craft beer are always looking for a new place to try. And then I also think that the people in downtown Auburn Hills have been waiting for a long time to have a brewery. So I think that has really helped us out a lot, where people knew we were coming. I actually started our social media so early on in the process that people were actually getting kind of annoyed with us because it was taking us so long to get open because of the construction delay. So I almost wondered if I pulled the triggers too soon, because it was like last April of 2019 that I started posting that we were coming. And so I think the people in downtown Auburn Hills were really like, okay, come on, let's go. But I think that just letting people know what we're doing safely and letting them know what we're doing differently in terms of what kind of beers we have. And also we're adding food slowly. It's taken us longer than we wanted just because of the impacts of Corona and having a smaller staff. I think a lot of people don't realize that even once places reopened, not all the staff came back, which I understand. For a lot of people working a service industry job, this is sometimes the second job. And for them, either they're nervous about being out in public or they just are nervous about people pushing back on them.
So we're having a little bit of delay in Courtney's Zoom call, which is happening to everyone during coronavirus. I always wonder what this is like for students as well, Tyler, as we continue to, we're going to see if we can get her back here quickly. Oh, what a hard time, though, for them right now to be opening in the midst of the pandemic. Any new business, I mean, we had established businesses that at least had a branding and they had a following that were able to reach out to their base of their customers to let them know what they were going through and to continue to support them. However, if you're a brand new business, that can be very difficult. And so we have been speaking with Cortney Casey. She's the managing partner at Blue Skies Brewery, which opened during the pandemic in Auburn Hills. We seem to have lost her signal.
Yeah,
so
it looks like we have lost her. She is reconnecting, so we can wait just another minute for her, and hopefully we'll have her back as soon as possible. But we have lost connection with with her on today's program.
Hey, it's live television, everyone, and this is happening with Zoom interviews across the country, not just here on Civic Center TV. I know that it is also happening with businesses as well as schools that are using Zoom as well. So, but we want to say Blue Skies Brewery, it's located in Auburn Hills, and they were just opening during the midst of this pandemic. I'm looking at their website, and they do have a lot of fun events that are coming up. Live trivia. I'm not very good at that, though, I have to tell you, unless I can Google the answers. They have tableside karaoke. Karaoke is very much a popular event, and a lot of people were excited to bring karaoke back, and they are doing it tableside. And we have Cortney back. So, Cortney, thank you for being patient with us. And do you want to pick up where you left off?
Yeah, I apologize. I feel like that's kind of like wrapping up 2020 for us, that the technological difficulties. But yeah, we were just talking about marketing. I do think that the people in Auburn Hills were really ready for something like this. And actually, my husband and I, when we opened our Michigan by the Bottle tasting room down here in Auburn Hills in 2016, we had no idea where downtown Auburn Hills even was. We lived in Macomb County. My husband's from the UP, and I'm from Sterling Heights. And Sean Keenan from the city of Auburn Hills says, I have this perfect location for you. Let me show you downtown Auburn Hills. And we're like, where's that? So he showed us the location where he thought would be great for Michigan by the Bottle, and we fell in love right away. And so when Lorenzo, our partner, was looking for a place to do this satellite tap room, we were like, you got to go to downtown Auburn Hills, because the city was so business friendly, so supportive of everything we wanted to do, and really, really wants to build up this downtown. So Lorenzo's like, all right, sounds good. So they're actually located, Blue Skies is right next to Michigan by the Bottle. And we loved it so much that my husband and I actually sold our house of 14 years and actually in the middle of quarantine moved to downtown Auburn Hills because we loved it so much.
So you are definitely a poster child for the city of Auburn Hills, and I'm sure they will appreciate that. Tell us what's coming up. And I will say, while it's been great and these cities are working with so many of the businesses in the summertime for businesses to be able to expand out into the parking lots, what's going to happen when winter comes? Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned. I'm concerned about another lockdown, just not knowing what's going to happen. And I'm concerned in general about, we've really been blessed with a wonderful summer. I mean, circumstances aside from Corona, in terms of weather, the summer has been awesome. Probably the best summer of my life in terms of weather. So I feel really lucky that we've had that and we've been able to capitalize on that. But I can feel fall coming and I'm getting a little nervous. We did purchase some heaters. And so we're going to be putting those outside as it gets cooler so that people can still enjoy the outside. But as winter comes, I think we'll just have to keep taking it as it comes and, hope for the best. I know because we are on a sidewalk permit, we do have to take down our fences by a certain date in November so the city can clear the sidewalks. So we will not be able to have outdoor seating, even if it's a mild winter, past that date. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I do feel like people are getting more and more comfortable with going out, and especially knowing as the word gets out that we're trying to do everything properly and following all the regulations, and people start really feeling more comfortable. I do think it will get better, but it's going to be an interesting winter for sure. It's not going to be normal. We've been doing so many events over the years at our wine tasting rooms, and I run all the events, and so it's been very strange to not be able to try and get as many people into our business as possible. But so we've been trying to shift to some smaller events and just more limited seating events, and that's been working out really well. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to be doing a beer dinner coming up at Blue Skies with pairings, and that's just going to be really limited seating. And we are going to be expanding our regular food menu as well. And we're going to be doing some stuff for, with the sporting events coming up, trying to get people in for that. So we'll just keep evolving as the situation requires. I mean, I think that's what small business owners are used to doing anyway, just not really in this environment. No one is used to this, obviously, but we just all know that you have to adapt or you will fail. So we're just all trying to adapt.
And hopefully come out stronger. So I have to say, every time I have to go buy like a bottle of wine, used to put me in a frenzy. I'd be so stressed out having to buy a bottle of wine to take to a party. But now I'm even more stressed out when I have to buy beer. I mean, the beer section is bigger than the wine section. What tips do you have for people?
I think if you find a place that really you can get to know the people that are there, whether it's a brewery, whether it's a store, both on the wine and beer side, I think that that helps out a lot. And I'm not knocking big stores at all, but I think if you find some smaller stores where you really get to know the staff and they become kind of your friends or, full on friends. I know some of our staff actually hang out with their customers outside of business hours. I think they get to know your tastes and you feel more comfortable asking questions, because I know a lot of times when it comes to wine and beer, there's so many people that are so passionate about it that if you're just getting into it, you kind of feel really awkward asking questions. But there are no stupid questions when it comes to craft beverages. So I would say find people that you trust and that you can get to know, who can get to know your tastes, and then they can recommend things to you. Especially if you're going to a store, every few weeks, they can tell you what's new. They can tell you, this might align with what your preferences are based on what you bought before. And that's a really good way to build a relationship with someone who's going to get you stuff that you like, so you're not going to waste your money, but also maybe push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone to try some new things that maybe they think are new and interesting and that they think you'll like.
Hey, Courtney, quickly before we let you go, I know that Michigan by the Bottle, the tasting room, I'm on your website, and you were doing events of yoga with wine. Is that going to continue? And what about beer and wine?
Yeah, we're definitely.
Or beer and yoga. Beer and yoga.
Beer and yoga, yeah. We are doing some outside yoga events at Riverside Park, which is right around the corner from both Blue Skies, Auburn Hills, and Michigan by the Bottle, Auburn Hills. And I'm kind of sad it took me all summer to think about doing that, because we used to do the yoga at our Shelby store, which is our smallest store, and we can't do that there right now because of the capacity issues. So I'm like, hey, why don't we just go to the park and then we can walk around the corner and go get wine? And so, yeah, we might definitely do that with beer. The only thing now we're running into is that early sunset. So that might put us on a little bit of a time clock here, but if things are still like this next year, as soon as it gets warm again, we're going to be hitting that outdoor stuff again. So people can definitely keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that's all on our website. I try to update that every day with all of our upcoming events too.
Cortney Casey with us, the managing partner of Blue Skies Brewery in Auburn Hills. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on the MegaCast, and go check them out. And then if you're not a beer person, if you're a wine person, go see them next door as well. And I think we should just do beer, wine, and yoga. How's that?
That sounds like I think a lot of people need that right now. Sounds like a great idea to me.
Exactly. We all do. We need to relax. Thank you so much, Courtney. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County MegaCast.